Jim McGregor from TIRIAS Research here with my colleague Francis Sideco. And one of the events that we were both at recently was GTC, or the GTU Technology Conference that NVIDIA puts on every year. And it's a really important conference. It's become probably one of the prime AI conferences in the industry. Although I couldn't believe how much it's outgrowing the San Jose.
It's outgrown San Jose. I mean, they pretty much blocked off that whole Cesar Chavez Park, and still was bursting at the seams.
Yeah, they even had to pull back certain things like the poster boards, which I love viewing because it tells you what people are doing, whether it's universities or startups or whatever. But the fire marshal wouldn't let them keep them out because there were too many people there and so much traffic. They are available online, as well as a lot of the sessions and stuff they had at GTC. Matter of fact, my two sons actually did the developer track. So phenomenal conference.
Well, I'm definitely outgrown the SAP Center. I think they're going to need to find like a football stadium next, because the basketball stadiums are not coping anymore.
He doesn't like the comparison, but Jensen's definitely competing on a Taylor Swift level.
Yeah, that's true. As far as bringing them in, that's for sure. That's for sure. So GTC was very interesting this year. I mean, they might have to rename it, because the G in GTC. Yes, obviously there's GPUs that are, but the GPUs that are being used,
AI technology.
Yeah, because the GPUs that are being used aren't actually GPUs anymore.
No.
They don't have all the things that are necessary to drive graphics and display. But they're doing
in some cases they're not GPUs at all.
But they're doing the same kind of math that GPUs use. Yes. So I guess that's where that's from. But there were some really big announcements.
So many announcements.
I know.
There's 2 pages of announcements from that show.
It might take,
really?
Yeah. I mean, I'll give my kind of my highlighter, what stuck out to me, but why don't you go first?
Well, just talking about it, first off, they had Dynamo, which is kind of like an operating system for the data center, and it kind of highlights their whole disaggregated server type of concept using KV cache and all kinds of things. Very unique. So they had Cosmo for doing creating simulation data, especially for robotics types of applications. That was so significant. I mean, the fact that you could actually create 27 years of simulations in one day, I think, on one GPU.
Well, where that becomes important is when you're trying to train like autonomous driving, for example,
or robots,
or robots, because then you get to a point where some people question synthetic data, because they're like, well, what if the synthetic data that gets generated by the AI is hallucinated, and then that starts getting brought into the training of the next AI. But in situations where you're training physical AI devices like robots and cars, it's really a matter of synthetically creating variations of scenarios.
Yeah, and using real life scenarios.
And using real life scenarios
in video or actually a human simulation.
Yeah, so with robotics, maybe changing the color of an object, which is a relatively low risk thing in terms of hallucinations, so that you're training the robot to deal with those colors, or even an automotive situation where you can have variations of known kind of situations. So it's basically like having your 16-year-old, instead of trying to get them to do 50 hours of real world driving where they might or might not experience certain road conditions or certain situations on the road before they get their license, the synthetic data is able to create those kinds of scenarios.
And thousands of them.
And thousands of them, 27 years worth of them, to help train. So I think it's definitely a game changer.
Well, that and the biggest announcement there, and this is the second year in a row that it's been focused. One of the big bottlenecks they've been focused on has been networking.
Yeah.
So last year was the NVL72 or the NV72 switch.
Yeah.
Or NV switch. I should
NVLink switch. Yeah.
NVLink switch. And this year it was a version of their Spectrum X and Quantum X using co-packaged silicon photonics.
Yeah.
So actually taking silicon photonics onto essentially the module, the switch module, and being able to scale up systems throughout the entire data center.
Well, it's really more of a scale out. It's more of a scale out thing. And the key, the big thing about that is obviously the industry's been trying to do co-packaged optics for 20 years. This is the first iteration where it's capable of production volume, production quality, grade.
And they pulled in the entire ecosystem to help. So Coherent and TSMC and a whole bunch of companies are collaborating on this. So despite the fact that a lot of people still keep saying that co-packaged optics are 2 to 3 years out, they're bringing it to market starting later this year and early next year. Later this year with Quantum X, with the InfiniBand solution, and Spectrum X in early 2026.
With Ethernet, or was it the other way around?
Ethernet.
Yeah, Spectrum X is the Ethernet. But I don't remember the
Quantum X is InfiniBand.
The order that it's coming out.
It's Quantum X
first. Okay. You know, but the thing about that is obviously no one's been able to test it or anything. But if you can believe what was published, it really has to do with power reduction, which is very important as in the advanced accelerated AI data centers, but also signal quality and reliability and resilience. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that you have a ton less parts and components in these kinds of systems when it's co-packaged like that, that could potentially break. Now, some might say that, hey, the laser is going to be the largest risk, and it's gonna die a lot more often. And when we asked about that, especially since co-packagers, they did take that into account. And the answer, at least from the NVIDIA folks we spoke with, was that they modularized that part of it so that it's easy to replace. You don't have to replace the whole board or anything like that.
And I would think it'd still be actually more reliable than the typical transceiver.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Which is bulky and everything else.
Yeah.
But I mean, there were so many announcements there. I mean, the enhancements in Groot for humanoid robots.
Yeah.
They announced the entire enterprise class platform from the PCIe cards, and actually the best part of it, all the way up to GGX SuperPod, but the best part was really on the desktop.
The DGX Sparks.
The DGX Sparks. It used to be called Project Digits, but it's a small workstation, and I think it's already available on the web for like $2,000.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the DGX Station, that's more of kind of a
workstation. Yeah.
But yeah, very exciting to have, you know, AI workstations you can have on your desk, and the Spark is so small. Yeah. I mean, that is, I want one just because it's cool. I have to admit, it's cool.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the two big things was really like Dynamo was huge, because obviously NVIDIA's kind of gotten a little bit of a pushback from the market around, okay, as industry changes its focus, not eliminating training. Obviously, training is still going to keep happening, but more and more inference is happening. How well positioned are they? And Dynamo was really their answer, I think, to scaled the need, at least, for scaled up inference, which you do, you know.
Out. You made the same mistake I just made.
Scaled up for Dynamo because
scale up.
And according to Jensen, anyway, I mean, I'll leave it to our viewers to determine whether they buy what he's selling. But you know, at least the thought behind it is, as we get into chain of thought reasoning, and you have all these kind of intermediate tokens, according to Jensen, up to 100x. Probably more than that, frankly. It's probably more like 200, 300x worth of tokens getting generated by the models themselves.
Yes.
You're going to need the scaled up inference capabilities. Now, does that mean everybody's going to need scaled up? No, because you have a lot of SLMs being used, especially around enterprise AI, where they have very focused use cases where they're not necessarily going to need that. But to me, the other thing that was really kind of a takeaway was Jensen putting out his GPU and CPU roadmap for the next 3 years. And aside from the fact that
with details,
and aside from the fact that the implications of that already, to me, what that indicates, and he kind of said this, he kind of said this anyway, is that he's trying to play in a different field than his competitors. Because you wouldn't necessarily put that out there with all that detail if all you were doing was trying to still be a chip provider.
No.
Right? Because then you give somebody a target to try to just outspec you.
He's trying to build up the ecosystem.
He's trying to build up the ecosystem, and frankly, he wants to be an infrastructure provider. That's why we're starting to see things like networking solutions from him. I mean, you already can't buy these chips by themselves. You have to buy them as a system. And his rationale for putting out that roadmap like that is so that when people buy infrastructure, they need to be able to plan and depend on that plan. And that was the thought. So I thought that was kind of an interesting insight of how he's seeing the company.
You know, the most impressive thing to me was actually the fact that each year you see NVIDIA addressing another bottleneck.
Yeah.
In AI, and whether that's on, whether it's for automotive, for humanoid robots, for, autonomous machines, whether it's for the data center, they're always addressing another bottleneck in the solution, the system. And part of that, releasing that is addressing, I think, one of the biggest bottlenecks, and one of the few areas that NVIDIA doesn't play, especially in the data center, and that's the infrastructure, the cooling, and the power solutions, which can be very customized solutions for each data center in each configuration. So I think that, that's an area that we need more innovation, and hopefully we see a lot of the infrastructure providers out there, come up with more modular solutions for the future, because really that's one of the limiting factors to time to operation for a data center today.
If they can even get the power that they need, and whatever power they could get,
that's a
and
whole
the cooling.
issue.
But hey, who knows? Maybe you just stumbled upon the next 2 years of GTC, right? I mean, they went from processing resources to now networking with
rack design
and rack designs. Maybe the next couple of them are their entrance into power and cooling solutions.
And we still need
maybe memory, because that's the other part. That's another bottleneck.
And we still need somebody, and we're not saying that NVIDIA is going after all these, because NVIDIA is enabling the ecosystem. But it's the one thing that none of the technologies are going after is that power generation. I don't see anybody saying they want to go after small modular reactors. That kind of surprises me.
Well, I mean, because power generation, but it's really when it comes to this part of it, I don't know how many 3 Mile Island reactors you want to be opening up, but I think when it comes to the power issue, it's really about maximizing and being as efficient with how much power you get at the grid, and then how much of that as close to 100% of that you can use all the way out to the chip
without too many peaks. It's a great conference. It keeps growing. It's very important to the industry, and once again, NVIDIA is pushing the envelope.
Very cool. Well, looking forward to next year's GTC, and we'll see where we go from there in the rest of 2025.
So once again, check out our other videos. We've got reviews of some of the other events and some of the other announcements going on in the industry. We have demos of some of the latest technology. We also have interviews with some of the industry technical people and executives from time to time. And if you like them, please like them, subscribe, and look for more from us. Or please send us a message to francis@TIRIASresearch.com or Jim@TIRIASresearch.com and let us know what you thought and what you'd like to see more, hear more about. Some of the areas that we're focused on include quantum computing, neuromorphic computing, the latest semiconductor process technology, autonomous machines. We're really looking at some of the latest technology, and some of those, looking for those inflection points that really drive the technology. So thank you for joining us.